from Brisbane, Australia. This is episode 94 of The Normal Blokes, a podcast dedicated to improving the competitive 40k experience. I'm Luke, and today I've got with me the Grand Master Stu from down in Melbourne. How are you doing, Stu?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Happy to be here and excited to talk about Grey Knights.
Yeah, so Stewie's a long-time Grey Knights player. If you're looking for a track record of him, he actually, you finished second, was it, at, what was it?
Third.
Third.
That was Mr. Liam Hackett had
That's right.
second place.
That's right. So yeah, Stewie came third at our Adelaide Uprising, which is Australia's kind of premier singles tournament. So he actually ran Grey Knights down there, and he was showing everybody how Grey Knights are still actually relevant in the meta. That being said, today we're here talking about the Grey Knights' new Codex, and it's an overhaul, that's for sure.
It is 100% an overhaul. It's almost a new army completely, in my opinion.
I know, I agree, and I mean, while some are a bit sad about that, I'm actually super excited, and I know you are too, Stuart.
I am too, and it was, look, I got to admit, going into this new book, it was a bit of a roller coaster. I knew that I had a feeling in my gut that this book was going to be completely different from the current place or the previous playstyle of Grey Knights, which was, at least the way I was running them, was definitely very much a shooting kind of. I hide from you, I'm going to use Astrolabe to shoot at you, and I'm just going to gate small units around the table to sort of trade upwards if I can.
Yeah.
And sorry, continue.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, it was like such a shooting, finesse, and then psychic orientated army, where now is like my kind of opinion of it from face value. I haven't actually played that many games with it, but now it seems like a bit more of a brunt force, elite combat sort of army.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the best way I could think to put it at the minute is that it's like we turned from Eldar into Space Marines in this new book.
Yeah, true.
Because, Eldar, that sort of, that one wound, they have all these sort of shenanigans and stuff like that. And I felt Grey Knights were very much this kind of hybrid army between Eldar and Space Marines. And now it definitely feels like we are now Space Marines with like a splash of Eldar instead of Eldar with a splash of Space Marines.
Yeah, no, that's a really good perspective, actually. It's very fitting. So, in terms of the episode today, what we have for you guys, for all our listeners, is we have Stu and I are going to be reviewing the Codex. We're not going to go through every little detail within the book, not every little nook and cranny. We're going to go through the things to look out for, what you'll see at majority of the tournaments that you go to when you come across the GK on the table, because as we know, with most codexes, about 80% of it is kind of not really seen, 20% of it is most people are running it, and then there's a few little niche lists out there that people are kind of like, whoa, I've never seen this before, I have no idea what it does. So we're aiming to look at that 20% that you're going to probably see the most, and then the few little niche picks that Stuart and I kind of like the best. So first we'll go through the Brotherhoods. We're going to walk through the book basically sequentially. The Brotherhoods, the Visions, which is a kind of like their relics, but you pay points for it
I love
instead.
the Visions. Oh.
It's a nice little touch, hey? I really like it.
I think it's probably the best. I mean, apart from maybe like the core Space Marine book, I think it's the best toolbox of upgrades you can give characters currently in the game.
And some of them, I look at them and I'm like, yes, I would pay 15 points for that, for sure.
Oh, I cannot tell you the sounds I made when I read Foretelling of Locus for the first time.
Yeah, it's
which
good,
is
hey?
the one, like a small spoiler, but basically you can redeploy 3 core units at the start of the game. And yeah, it was on my wish list for this new book, and I couldn't believe we got it. And the power with that one upgrade is incredible, which we'll talk more about later.
Yeah, we definitely will. It's something definitely to cover. It's not as good as some of the other redeploys that we've seen in other armies, because this one's immediately after you finish deployment, so you don't actually know.
No, but if you read the way deployment works, the end of the deployment step is actually after the first turn is determined. So it actually does work in the same way as Phantasm and other things.
Oh, really? Well, then it's excellent.
Yeah.
And I would definitely pay 30 points to redeploy basically my entire army.
You're going to take it every game.
I was already going to take it the way it was. I mean, because how many times do you go, oh, they're going to, do this key thing, or I stuffed up. Like it's a get out of jail free card.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to work through the book, and we'll end up covering all these little juicy bits of information. But to get it started, Stuart, I want to talk to you about the Brotherhoods. So Brotherhoods are kind of like sub-chapters within the Grey Knights, and each of them have their own sort of little backstory, and they also get their own special stratagem, their own psychic power, which every psyker knows. And they also get a special warlord trait that is in access of each of the Brotherhoods. So, Stuart, give me your first pick. What is your number one pick for the Brotherhoods?
So, my number one pick for the Brotherhoods is at least my favorite one that I think I'll be including in nearly every list that I play in the foreseeable future is the Prescient Brethren. So, this one, I feel like with all the Brotherhoods, they all have something. I feel like there's none of them that really have both a warlord trait, psychic power, and stratagem, which is really good. They all seem to have like a stratagem and psychic power, which is quite good, and then maybe a warlord trait that you're probably never going to see, or it's like 2 out of 3 is good, and then one of them's a bit meh.
Yeah, for sure.
But Prescient Brethren for me is definitely the warlord trait and stratagem. So going into the stratagem is foresight for 1 CP. And you basically get to pick any of your psychic units from this Brotherhood, and it gets to reroll 1s to hit, and it gets to reroll 1s to wound for either shooting or combat.
Which is crazy.
It's like getting,
right?
Yeah, it's so good value for 1 CP. You're essentially putting a lieutenant and a captain wherever you need it on the table. And as I was sort of thinking before, this also affects your characters. So you can give rerolls back to your characters which have, suddenly lost them because they don't have the core keyword.
Mm-hmm. The best part about that stratagem for me is that it's just psychic keyword, so it doesn't even have to be core. So you can literally do it to anything.
That's true, yes. Yeah, I think all our apart from characters, I think all our psychic units are core.
Yeah, pretty much everything's core is what I've noticed. I actually don't even know what isn't.
Some things have more core. Some things are more core than others because we also have this terrible keyword called Honored Knights, which I'll probably touch on a bit later, or even now, actually, if it's
it's a good time.
Full time to interject. But,
tell us about it.
Yeah, Honored Knights is essentially your blades for hire in like Drakari and stuff like that. It's basically these are units that can be taken into any Brotherhood detachment without breaking the Brotherhood. But they don't get the Brotherhood bonuses. And this is fine. Like, not getting the Brotherhood bonuses for the most part is okay. The units which are Honored Knights are your Venerable Dreadnoughts, Purifiers, and Paladins. Now, this keyword is a bit of a problem, in my opinion, because...
That's an understatement.
It's an annoying keyword. So despite Paladins and Purifiers and Venerable Dreadnoughts getting the core keyword, which would normally be seen as a blessing, and it is, because of the way Grand Masters and Brother Captains, which are the equivalent of our Captains and Lieutenants, work, they only give their rerolls to Brotherhood units.
Mm-hmm.
And because they do not have Brotherhoods, they can't get those rerolls. The only way to give them rerolls is to take Caldor Drago, which in most lists you're probably going to want to.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Or you take a Dreadnought and you use the equivalent stratagem of Wisdom of the Ancients to get a reroll bubble.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It just seems like such an awkward thing that they've done with that. I don't know.
I definitely agree. And the thing is, right, they've given them like a unique keyword, but I don't know of a single stratagem that specifically covers that keyword. Like if you give them like a cool keyword and you go, okay, you can't have Brotherhoods, you can't get Doctrines, whatever. But maybe give them like a special stratagem that interacts with that keyword, so it makes you want to, take them 100%. In addition.
100%. And like, for example, even in Drakari, to use example again, and they have Blades for hire, Archons can still give them rerolls if you take them in a real space raiders detachment.
Mm.
So I don't know. It just feels like our brother captains and our Grand Masters should have, they give they give your Brotherhood's rerolls and Honored Knights get the rerolls as well, because it just doesn't make sense to have like your Paladins, which are your most elite warriors, standing next to a Grand Master, and they're just like, nah, I'm not really sure how. We don't speak the same language. I'm sorry. I'm not going to reroll this one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like, do better. No, you're not my dad. All right.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, and look, maybe it is an oversight, and we will see a future FAQ for it. I don't expect this because, GW, but it is what it is. I still think Purifiers are worth taking. Paladins, I'm still not sold on, to be honest, but we'll get to more of that later, I think.
Yep. All right. So tell us about the psychic power and the warlord trait.
Yes. So sorry about that segue, but so we've had Foresight as our stratagem. The psychic power is fatal precognition. It's malediction, which you target an enemy unit, and whenever that unit moves or charges, on a 4+, it takes D3 mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's and on a 6, it's flat 3. The psychic power is, it's not that good in my opinion. It's only got 12-inch range. You might use it once or twice if you've run out of, or your smites are like scaled up too much that you think this is more worthwhile. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're rarely going to see this cast. And then the warlord trait is it gives your warlord the ability to do a psychic action, which is warp charge 6, and you gain a command point.
Mm-hmm.
Simple, but good.
Yeah, you kind of need it because some of our stratagems are a little bit more expensive. There's only a few that are cheaper, but they kind of got downgraded anyway. So, the extra CP, hey, it's always nice and it's guaranteed. There's a little cool thing that they've done in the book, which is give these Grey Knights a lot of psychic actions, and what they can do is essentially do them instead of casting other powers. And some of them are really strong. Some of them are okay. The definite strong one is command point. I mean, you can never really complain about a command point. And it kind of makes sense to put this on things like your chappie, someone who has one power anyway. And that's typically what people would do in the last Codex anyway, like put it on a character that didn't really need to cast any other powers.
Yeah, and I think a poignant note about this one as well, this is the only way in this Codex to gain additional CP throughout the game.
That's right, yeah.
So if you are thinking of running a Grey Knight build which wants to be using a lot of command points, then you probably think that this is probably going to be a Brotherhood that you definitely want to include in some way. At
least a support detachment or something,
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Cool. So, moving on from the prescient, I think one of my top picks, which I want to hear from you about, Stuart, is the Sword Bearers. Now, this is one that I've heard about from a number of people. It's pretty, from face value, look, it reads pretty well. It does make you build a certain type of, or at least entice you to build a certain type of armor style, and that's vehicle heavy. So, Sword Bearers, essentially their stratagem is Mark to Death. It's 2 CP, and you pick a unit within 12 inches of another Sword Bearers unit, an enemy unit within 12 inches of a Sword Bearers unit, and until the end of the phase, all Sword Bearers units get +1 to hit with ranged attacks against that enemy unit. So it can be really, really good when you're like, okay, this thing needs to die this turn. So you do 2 CP +1 to hit, your entire army can do +1 to hit against it, so long as it's a sword bearer.
Yep.
So pretty excellent. The psychic power. Oh, what were you going to say there, Stuart?
No, I was just agreeing with you that it's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It does require you to be within 12 inches, and you have to be visible. Like the enemy unit has to be visible to you.
That's true, but I mean, with the way Grey Knights have many ways to sort of teleport around the table, so I don't think for the most part this is going to be an issue to get in range.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The psychic power is Empiric Lodestone, and this is awesome. It's probably my favorite psychic power in the book, actually.
Yeah, nice.
But it's Warp Charge 7, it's Malediction, which means target enemy unit, and it's 18-inch range. The unit that you target is essentially +1 to wound for ranged attacks made by vehicle models, by sword bearers vehicle models. So if you've got an army of Grand Master Dreadnoughts, well, it can't be Grand Master Dreadnoughts anymore, but if you have an army of Nemesis Dreadnoughts, they all get +1 to wound against this vehicle. If you have Dreadnoughts supporting,
Or not even
+1 to
vehicle,
wound.
just whatever unit you've
Yeah,
target.
sorry, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a little bit more leeway. Instead of running Rhinos all the time, you can run Razorbacks, and then their Razorback weapons are actually really good against certain units.
That's true. Yeah.
So, because I always found that you go Rhino or Razorback. Rhino is way better because it's 80 points and it's got 10 capacity. But now, like, a Razorback army with this actually wouldn't be too bad, supporting some
Yeah,
Dreadnoughts
it's
or
interesting.
something.
I actually hadn't thought about it with using Razorbacks yet. So that's actually an interesting point, because essentially you could take like a twin assault cannon and you're wounding like T4 and T5 on 2s,
That's
essentially with this, which is, that's actually quite powerful. And especially now with vehicles sort of, or at least Razorbacks not getting rerolls anymore, this can kind of sort of compensate for that fact as well.
Yeah, exactly. Their warlord trait, kind of interesting. I can definitely see someone putting this on a Land Raider. What do you reckon, Stuart?
Oh man,
Oh man.
2 Land Raiders
Yes.
with the 4+ invulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, stop what you're doing, go online, order 2 Land Raiders immediately, because this is going to break the game.
You finally get him off the shelf. It's a psychic
That's
action. Warp Charge 5. You select a friendly sword bearer's vehicle within 12, and it gains a 4-up invulnerable save. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's essentially like cast an extra sanctuary,
Yeah.
but only for vehicles.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. Like, I think it's powerful, but most of the vehicles that you're probably going to want to take in competitive lists already have a 4+ invulnerable save stock.
Exactly. Yeah.
But where I do think this is actually quite powerful is just putting it on the humble Rhino, to be honest.
Yes.
Because you're essentially putting, at least like early or late 8th edition, early 9th edition, impulses when they had the 4+ invulnerable shield dome.
Mm-hmm.
Those things were really annoying to kill. And essentially you're making one of these. It's going to help keep your sort of your power armor dudes alive, and they are really powerful now. So I think that's actually an interesting use for it.
Yeah, I agree. I also bring back the flying Storm Raven, please. The flying invulnerable Storm Raven.
Not even, man. The Thunderhawk.
Oh yeah, just dream big, right?
Dream big.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's the sword bearers there. We'll move on to the next one. So Stuart, have you got another one for us that you want to run by that you think will be common in?
Yeah, having it probably what I think is a sleeper pick for that at first glance doesn't seem like it's going to make that much of a splash, but because I don't think it's we're not in the right metaphor at the minute with Drukhari and Admech being kind of like the top dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in 3 months down the line, I think we're going to see this one quite a lot more, which is the Preservers.
Yep, this is my favorite, my absolute top favorite. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. So we get start off with the stratagem. It's a pre-game requisition stratagem. It's 1 CP, and you can pick a Preserver's Dreadnought, and it gets increased move characteristic to 8 inches. It can reroll charge rolls during the game, and when it fights, if it's charged or heroically intervened, it gets to add 1 to its damage characteristic in close combat. Stratagem's fine. Like, if you're going to take a Dreadnought, it's a good way to sort of buff it up a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things I think about this is I have a prediction that Custodes are going to go to like 4 wounds base.
Oh yeah, interesting.
I don't know if this is... It's just my gut feeling. I could be wrong on this. I have no sort of support to back this up. But if Custodes do go to 4 wounds base, this Dreadnought's actually going to be really good at killing them.
Yeah.
So that's, something to keep in mind if that happens. Do you want to run us through the Psychic Power and the Warlord trait?
Yeah, so the psychic power is my absolute favorite. And there's
Yes.
something that we haven't actually said about these psychic powers from the Brotherhoods that you can do, and that's
Yeah.
in one of the tides. So Grey Knights still do have tides, and we're going to cover this more
Mhm.
later, but just to preface this, one of the tides is that Grey Knights can repeatedly cast their Brotherhood power. And
Mm.
in addition, as a basic thing, they can cast their Sancted Discipline power multiple units, and that's the power that's known
Mm.
by each individual unit. We're going to cover that a bit more later, but just as a preface, multiple units can cast these powers, and when they do, it increases the warp charge value. So
Yeah.
that
Well, in the
becomes,
same way as Smite.
yeah, exactly. That becomes important for this because this is why I love this psychic power. So it's warp charge 6. It's called Aegis Eternal. It basically gives the Psyker's unit a 6-up Feel No Pain. But on top of that, if you have an apothecary and you're within 3 inches of that apothecary, if your unit is within 3 inches of that apothecary, it's a 5 plus Feel No Pain instead. Uh, I mean,
Yeah.
just 3 wound models with a 5 up Feel No Pain, 2 up armor save, 4 up invo. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to get through.
Yeah. And less, it wasn't too long ago where Richard Siegler won LVO by essentially spamming, um, lots of intercessors with a 5 up invulnerable save and a 5 up feel no pain.
Exactly.
And, obviously there was other stuff going on in that list because it was Broken Iron Hands. But this isn't too dissimilar to that.
No, I definitely
Yeah.
agree.
So,
Um,
having Terminators, which are objective secured, the 2 up and a 4 up,
mhm,
and 5 up feel no pain, and gonna get a guy back a turn with an apothecary.
that's right.
Pretty hard to shift.
And not only that, there is a warlord trait. So this paired with the warlord trait that gives you obsec again.
Yeah.
I mean, Terminator's counting as double obsec on objectives with 5 from the
Hmm.
pain that you can revive every turn. To me, that's just it's just incredible. I think it's incredible. But the meta
Yeah.
at the moment is that big, like every bloody Space Marine list has multi-melter bikes or eradicators or you've got these things that are massive, damage 4 or something, and we're in a 2
Yeah.
damage meta as it is. The expensive units are sometimes a little bit risky to run because if you don't roll very well, it can disappear quite quickly, and then you're in a bit of
Yeah.
trouble.
100%. Yeah, and it makes it also really hard when essentially a 10-man witch squad that uses a couple of CP still has a really good chance of just taking down one of your Terminator squads quite easily,
Exactly.
which feels a little bad for the time being. So
Yes, because those same Terminators can't. There's no longer armored resilience for all those Grey Knights players, so you no longer neg 1 to wound.
yeah,
Armored Resilience is instead now a +1 save, but it's only on specific units. Only specific units
correct.
can know that power, and none of your Terminators can. None of your your
Brotherhood
Brotherhood
Terminators.
Terminators can.
Yeah, it's sad, but it is what it is.
Yep. Well, the warlord trait for this is add 3-inch range. It's not bad when you can extend the range of obsec at any point. I think that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
100%. And this also pairs well with the we have a 1 CP stratagem, which is increase your range of your auras again by 3 inches, and you can
Mhm.
do this in any phase. And where this becomes interesting is if you wanted to extend your aura range in your command phase to give a unit obsec that it didn't have before and nab an objective in either your opponent's command phase or your own command phase, you could do this before they score and take an objective away. It's very situational,
Mm.
but you could do it.
No, yeah, it's amazing. I played a similar variant of this at Adelaide Uprising when I played the
Mm.
Black Templars, and the bonus range on auras is crazy when you can do things like Terror Troops or give obsec. It's yeah, it can be pretty. It's very situational, but those situations where it does happen, it's just insane.
I think it's game winning
Yeah, it
when it
is.
comes
It
up.
is. Yeah, for sure. So that's my top pick. I'm thinking Stuart's right on the nose with that it's going to be maybe not so much super strong now, but later on when the meta kind of balances out a bit, it's going to be on the
Yeah,
money, that one.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
Now, what's the next one you'd like to talk about, Stuart? Is it, I'm guessing, rapiers?
Yeah, rapiers. I think this is a good one to mention. I think or at least now, what you're going to see most of
Hmm.
is probably this Brotherhood switch is the rapiers, because this is clearly the easiest to see where the strength is, um,
Yep.
as well, because this codex really emphasizes close combat, and this just makes close combat better.
Yeah, it's the one that first jumps out at you, and you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. And I still think we're going to see this, 6 months down the line, a year down the line. You pretty much maybe nearly will always see a detachment of these guys in a Grey Knight's force. So the stratagem is 1 CP, deadly efficacy.
Hmm.
I don't know how to pronounce that word,
That's
unfortunately,
correct.
but
You nailed it.
I nailed it.
You nailed it.
Even better. So basically, it gives any rapier's unit exploding sixes to hit in close combat.
Hmm.
It's simple, does what it says on the tin, but you see how good it is with Sisters of Battle, which you can get it like on every unit in their army.
Yep.
Just good. There's Lightning Power, Symphonic Strike, Warp Charge 6, and it's a blessing which targets it's not even a blessing. It just targets the Psychic unit, and every model in that unit gets +1 attack. Extra attacks.
Yep.
It's just good. And the war.
Yep.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, you keep going.
Oh yeah, the warlord trait is basically gives your warlord advance and charge, which is the only way to get it in the Grey Knight's book. But I think there's some interesting things you can do with that warlord trait. I just haven't really experimented with it enough yet.
Yeah, I mean the obvious one seems like a Grand Master Dreadnought, but then
I don't think it's good on a Grand Master Dreadnought.
Yeah, because
I've seen a few people doing it on there already. Look, if it's working for you, like, go ahead and do it. That's that's going to work for you. But for me, I think you want your Grand Master Dreadnought shooting every turn of the game.
Yep.
The shooting is just so good. Where I think this becomes good is if you were to put it on like a regular Grandmaster or something like that. Put it with like a relic such as the new Cuirass's Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe if you're feeling really spicy, you could take one of the relic Nemesis weapons, which I don't really rate, to be honest, but maybe there's something there with them. And he can just sort of sling out really quickly and just take out something pretty easily. Because he can also just 1 CP get exploding sixes in combat, which makes him pretty good as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad.
It's not bad.
But yeah, I think there's better things than it. Because it only affects one model, and I don't really like things that just affect one model. I feel like you're missing out.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially in this book, I feel like the characters aren't so much emphasized as much as the units themselves are. You want to be investing more in taking more units in your army rather than investing a lot in characters.
Yeah.
With the exception of one.
So where I see this really strong, what I'm sort of foretelling. So the other Brethrens are semi-decent. There's some cool things in here, more niche things rather than like brute sort of power or strength.
Yeah.
Nothing that really jumps out at you that says, this is incredibly strong. I could be wrong. Yeah. This is just my opinion as well. But I will say, in terms of like a meta sort of thing, what you could expect to see is fast-moving Grey Knights units like the Interceptors as rapiers. We've seen that on a battle rep from a few places already now. The last one that I saw was Art of War, where Siegel was running the Interceptors with rapiers, and it's just, you see, because now Grey Knights, instead of getting Shock Assault, they basically have an inbuilt +1 attack as it is. So
they got +2 attacks.
Yeah, well, like depending on the unit, right? So
it went from 1 attack to 2 attacks. Oh, sorry, to 3 attacks.
To 3 attacks, yeah. So some units are just like insane. So your Interceptors are 12-inch move, ignore terrain. Oh, actually, do they still ignore terrain, Stuart? I can't remember.
The Interceptors?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I'm scanning for it now.
One data sheet that I don't have. So you're all on your own on this one, Chief.
Nah, they do.
Yeah.
So essentially it's like a jump. It's like a Harlequin flip belt.
Yeah.
So that was my
100%.
favorite part about them. I used to love these guys. But yeah, so they're going from 1 attack base to 3. So they get the Shock Assault, and then bang, just an extra one because why not? And then rapiers with the psychic power, it's 4, and then exploding 6s. And the power combo here is that one of the tides. So we'll quickly jump into the tides, Stuart, because I think it adds a lot of context here.
Yep.
So Grey Knights have tides, similar to before.
Yep, and there are 5 instead of 4 now.
That's right. Do you want to run us through the first 2?
Yeah, I'll run us through the first 2. So the first one, and the one that's sort of relevant to this combo that we're going to talk about, is Tide of Convergence. And I think this is the tide you're probably going to see the most of.
Yep.
It is, while this tide is dominant, you can add 6, or you add 6 inches to the range characteristics of style weapons.
I'm just imagining
you don't have a choice.
I'm gonna not add the 6-inch range here.
Yeah, no, it puts me out of range, but it's alright. I've got a good plan for it. It's optional. So add 6-inch range to the range of psi weapons that models are equipped with. And the real spicy part is each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack with a nemesis weapon, on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage.
Which is awesome, considering everything's fielding so many attacks now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about it straight off the bat, you know what's a really popular unit in the meta right now? Volkite Contempted Reds.
Oh yeah, good point.
This essentially turns your basic troops into Volkite Contempted Dreadnoughts in close combat. But with better quality attacks.
Exactly. And I always think about it this way, like, you spend so many points trying to get these units that do big damage, but the thing is you have to go through 3 steps of rolling to get to the damage part, and sometimes they even have Feel No Pain or something, right?
Yeah.
The mortal wounds in addition to normal damage is so powerful, because you just go, I might have killed 1 model before after all rolls, but now I could kill like 3.
Yeah.
And if things spike out of control, then it's just
Yeah, it's
super powerful.
So powerful. Another thing here, which is really relevant as well, because being that there is actually so much -1 damage in the meta, the extra mortal wounds that you get on top of the damage that you would normally do, it kind of helps sort of pan out the fact that there is a lot of -1 damage.
Yep.
It helps you kind of get those little extra wounds you need to maybe, like get through a Death Guard Terminator or, a ramshackle or vehicle. It sort of, evens out that curve, if you like, instead of just sort of your weapons being completely, or not completely useless, but nowhere near as effective as you expected them to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, it's awesome because you went from D3 damage to now all your nemesis weapons are damage 2, which is awesome. There's
the
even
exception of Falchions, but they get an extra attack.
Yep, exactly. And but even then, that's good with the tide because you're just rocking an extra attack, and if you roll 6,
extra attack, an extra chance for a 6. Correct.
Exactly. But on top of that as well, there's a psychic power for +1 damage on your nemesis and psi weapons, which is awesome. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
So your nemesis weapons in combat are 3 damage, and any 6 to wound is 1 mortal wound in addition. Rapiers with a bunch of attacks is then even more chance for that happening. And where this gets really crazy, which we'll go on and talk about later, there's a lot of combos from different pages in the book that we'll cover all, but we're just working through it systematically. There's a Words of Power litany, which is essentially works the same as normal litany, but you select a unit, and until your next command phase, each time that unit makes a melee attack with a nemesis weapon, on an unmodified 6 to wound, it wounds an additional time, so you get exploding wounds, and it's an additional mortal wound if you're in the Tide of Convergence. So that means on every 6 to wound in combat, it counts as 2 wounds and 2 mortal wounds. So
this is barbarically stupid, by the way.
It is. It's ridiculous in practice, right? It's ridiculous.
It is. This is monkey brain, pants on head level stupid, in my opinion. It is like the damage that these units can do. Like we're talking, you can take down like Magnus with just the mortal wounds alone if you roll a bit hot. So I expect this to get FAQ'd, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
but I 100% am going to abuse this as much as possible until we get that FAQ.
Yeah, it's insane
So-
because like you get, say these squads, you run a 10-man interceptor squad. They have what 30 attacks, right?
Yeah.
And they get, I don't know, 20 something hits, and then there's going to be 5 sixes, and that's 10 mortal wounds in addition to whatever damage you do. It's a ridiculous amount, particularly in the meta that we're in at the moment. Down here in Australia
100%.
at least.
Yeah, I mean, like, and even like, what's popular around the world, like Lucius, Admech. Imagine just killing them with the mortal wounds alone, like a whole blob, just vaporized.
Yeah,
it's
just
very good.
if you want to see the satisfying pain that it brings, that the Art of War did a stream with Richard Siegler, and he runs a interceptor squad into a horror bomb, a 30-man horror squad, and did 22 mortal wounds from this.
Yep.
He rolled 11 sixes, so it's
it's impressive.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's 11 additional wounds.
Correct.
22 mortal wounds, and all those wounds can be at 3 damage. Neg 3, 3 damage. Neg 2 to 3 damage. So it's like,
it's very good. So yeah, enjoy it while you can, but I do seriously think it's going to be FAQ'd. And if it doesn't, even better. We've got a really cool combo. Like, you know, I still think it's going to be powerful even without double mortal wounds, to be honest.
Yes, for sure. I honestly thought 1 would be enough. And even when I saw it, I messaged Eric, and I was like, dude, I'm just checking. It reads here, and it even says you can, but I just want to make sure that you can stack these. And he's like, yeah, man. Because I just didn't believe it at first. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's pretty good.
So anyway, we'll move on. So we've done the Brotherhoods. Yeah. We've told you about the cool combo that everyone's going to be running, and that's the big, mortal wound bombs coming out. It's probably going to be on your fast moving unit, so I'm thinking interceptors.
But it's going to work on everything, right? But like, you're most likely going to see like a missile unit of interceptors rush at you with all these buffs on them.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So given those Brotherhoods, Stuart, what are you? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but what do you think are your top kind of 3 units that you're thinking about working into armies at the moment that build around these things that you like here?
So my top 3 units are probably not going to be that surprising to people, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Being that these are some of the units that I really quite pushed in the new book.
Mm-hmm.
The first off I want to talk about is the Grand Master Dreadnought and Nemesis Dreadnought, and just Dreadnoughts in general.
Yep.
If you've seen any of the battle reports for Grey Knights versus Thousand Suns, and there's quite a few good ones on YouTube. I recommend you at least have a glance at them if you're at all interested in Grey Knights or Thousand Suns. The Grand Master in Nemesis Dreadnought has a very, very powerful build that it can take. So in addition to it being just a melee beat stick and quite durable with a 2-up save, 4-up invo, and 13 wounds, it can have 2 powerful shooting guns, and it can take a awesome relic. What this relic does, I believe it's called the Sigil of something. I can't remember what it's called.
Sigil of something, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, what it essentially does is, when you're targeted for a shooting attack, you can, once per game, teleport anywhere on the table that's more than 9 inches away from enemy models.
Yep. It's awesome, right? Like, it works like the old warp spiders, if anyone remembers them, when you shoot at them and they move.
I didn't even know they used to work like that, but that's very cool.
Oh man, I have 30 warp spiders for that reason.
Yeah, no, well, the thing it actually reminded me of when I saw this is it actually feels like it turns your Grandmaster into the Yin Khan for a turn.
Yeah, it's good, hey.
Yeah, why this unit is going to be so good, and I think you're going to see it in nearly every Grey Knights list for the coming future, is that it's not just because of the raw power this unit provides, and it is very powerful. It's the unique problem that it proposes to your opponent.
Mhm.
And it's the age-old question of to shoot or not to shoot.
Mhm.
Because if you shoot him, there's a good chance he could teleport anywhere on the table and expose a flank that maybe you left a little bit unguarded or didn't screen properly. It could teleport behind cover or out of range, so you're not getting the value of those shots, and then suddenly you've exposed your big heavy guns and I get to shoot at them next turn. Or do you ignore him and just let him run rampant into your lines next turn?
Mhm.
And yeah, there is ways of dealing with him, whether it be just challenging him in close combat, because while he's tough, he's definitely not unkillable. Um, and if you just can try and screen at the table and make him teleport, and he just doesn't get to teleport where he would kind of want to. But yeah, this is a very powerful unit. You're going to see it a lot.
Yeah, definitely agree. So yeah, what's your second unit then that works well with these brotherhoods?
Yeah, second unit is just the humble strike marine.
Yeah.
This dude, I feel like is now genuinely one of the best troops in the game currently. 22 points gets you a 2-wound space marine. That is a psyker, so can now cast a normal full smite instead of the baby smites that Grey Knights used to have.
Mhm.
And it comes with a Ripper melee weapon, which is essentially a mastercrafted power sword or some variant of that. It comes with a Stormbolter, which is still an incredibly good gun for the meta we are in.
Mhm.
And they have 3 attacks base.
And they don't they know Hammerhand base as well?
They do know Hammerhand base.
So
and
they
this
get
power,
reroll.
if I had to give a little badge to most improved power in this new book, it would have to be to Hammerhand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
I'm so
Hammerhand
happy.
has been around for Grey Knights since the beginning,
Yep.
as far as I know. But oh my god, does this power look so damn good in this book?
Yeah. So Hammerhand, for those listening, it changed from +1 to wound in combat to now reroll failed wounds in combat. So
It's also just reroll wounds, not in failed. So if you're fishing for 6s,
it is reroll all wounds. Okay, well that's even better. You want those mortal
Yep.
wounds? Why not?
Yep.
On top of that, everyone who knows Hammerhand can cast Hammerhand.
correct.
At
You could have 3 squads that can do it.
rerolling wounds in combat. It's insane. So you can see how, like, after we talked about this, that the raw combat power is just so strongly shining through compared to
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
They're no longer like the psychic dominant army. They're a bit more of a combat orientated army.
Yeah. They actually fit. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like before, where there was this psychic dominant army. Why I kind of like this dual release with Thousand Suns, if you like, is that it really now feels like Thousand Suns are the psychic army.
Yeah, for sure.
And they really should be. They should be that. That is their thing. And Grey Knights actually now feel like this kind of the idea of paladins from any kind of fantasy. They're kind of like martial warriors first and foremost, but can use supporting spells.
Yeah.
And I think they've kind of struck that balance quite nicely in this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
and the third, I guess.
Third unit. Yeah. What is it? Hit me.
Third unit for me is probably going to have to be interceptors, and we already kind of spoke about these guys a little bit before, so I won't dwell on them too long. But essentially, these guys are the same as the strike squad.
Yep.
But they have a 12-inch move, and they have pseudo flight. They have flip belts like Harlequins do.
Yep.
And they also have the teleporter keyword, which means that once per game they can use a stratagem for 2 CP, so it is pricey, but they can essentially redeploy anywhere on the table, 9 inches away from enemy immortals.
Mm-hmm.
This used to be inbuilt onto their data sheet, so I guess you could say technically this is a nerf to them. But it's you still have the option to do it when you need to do it. What makes them so improved, though, is before I never really used interceptors very much because they were a fast-moving unit, which fast-moving units generally you want to get them into combat or have the ability to do a lot of damage in combat, and I never felt they provided that. And there were still one-wound Marines that just kind of died way too easily. They were too expensive for what they did.
Yep, for sure.
Now they are fast-moving. They hit hard in close combat. Their shooting is still relevant. And another little nifty thing that they do is that instead of knowing Hammer Hand, so this unit cannot get rerolls to wound. They know a psychic power which essentially allows them to fire and fade in the psychic phase.
Mm-hmm.
And this opens up a lot of little options here. So you can if you're planning to use them like a missile unit as rapiers and commit them into something really big and kill it, if they're sort of kiting you for a little bit and they're not coming into range to get a reliable charge, you can have just a couple of turns where you just pop out from cover, shoot at them in the psychic phase, and then just move away again.
Mm-hmm.
So even on those turns, they're still relevant. If you're using 5-man squads of these and you just want them to get around the table to get engaged in all fronts, or just, set up for little charges in the next coming turns, they can essentially have a 24-inch move.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to get around the table and they're going to do really nice things for you in the game.
Yeah. And so my favorite part about them is that, so this is one of my top 3 units as well, if not the top. They know the ethereal castigation, which is essentially the old edict. So move, shoot in the psychic phase, and then you're able to move again. All of the squads that know this can cast that power. That means you can have up to 3 of these squads moving and shooting and going back behind cover. The warp charge value of that power is now 6 instead of a 7, so it's actually reasonable for them to do that, for 2 squads to do that. And with the new FAQs in play at the moment, it does say in there, it has been changed, that after moving, you can enter back into a vehicle. So these guys can get out of a Rhino, move 12 or move 15, shoot, come back, hop back inside the Rhino. You can have 2 squads doing that.
Yeah. So cool.
It's insane. So these are my number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, name another unit that can do that.
Not many in the game really at the minute. So, they've got definitely a unique star badge on them.
For sure. So yeah, those kind of like the cool 3 units that go well with the Brotherhoods. We're gonna sort of skip ahead and then go to what I want to cover is the character upgrades that we're going to talk about really quick.
Yeah.
So the new thing in the GK Codex is they've got their relics and whatnot as per normal. They now have what's called Gifts of the Prescient and Visions of the Augurium, I think. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. You got it right.
Nailed it. We're both nailing these names. So these are essentially, kind of think of them as the Chapter Master upgrades that Space Marines have.
Yeah, I think they're more similar to like the Cryptek Arcana, like from the Necron book, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Where you just pay points, you get a little bonus upgrade. All of these, however, are once per battle. So I'm going to start off with my probably top 2 picks out of all these. So all of them are really cool. They all have their unique flavor. I have my 2 very favorites. My one is Heroism's Favor, which is once per battle in your opponent's charge phase, select a friendly Grey Knight's core unit within 12. That unit can perform a heroic intervention as if it was a character. What do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, this is a good one, especially in the current game, which is very much primary focused. Being able to sit a unit on an objective and know that if your opponent just walks onto this objective, you can stop them from like just taking an objective away from you.
Exactly.
By heroically intervening them is very powerful. And yeah, it's once per game, but realistically, your opponent would probably only let you do this once per battle anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and generally enough of a swing to win a game, just that on its own. So
Yeah, definitely. So the reason why I like this one is because Terminators, they're your slow-moving unit. I like them with the Preservers, so they all have a 5-up Filament Pain. They're all super durable. They're all counting as double obsec on the objective. They're sitting there, and you know what's so annoying in all of my games is people throw little units of troops just to tag my objectives and try and take them off me. You know what they can't do anymore? They can't do that because my Terminator unit's going to heroic and kill them. And the thing is, you only really need to do that probably one turn at max, because they're aiming to do that to take you off either 5 or 10 primary. Your goal, or at least my goal, is to always try and score 10 primary, and then you need one turn of 15. So as long as you're not getting 5s, you're all good. And this is a perfect way to stop getting a 5 on primary.
Yep, definitely.
So with my second one now, Stuart, I will disclose to you, and my second favorite is the, where is it? Servant of the Throne, and it's once per battle. Give the bearer a 3-up invulnerable save. And this
Simple.
Simple.
Says what it does on the tin.
Taste it.
But
Yeah.
my God, is it good?
Right, and it's perfect on that Dreadnought that you were mentioning, because you can't shoot him. If you want to actually charge him, he's going to get a 3-up invo, so he's very hard to kill. And you got to commit at least once on him. You got to either go on combat and get the 3-up invo popped, or you got to shoot him and then he's going to teleport. But it's never beneficial.
This adds to the sort of game of chicken that you play with your opponent as well with this model.
Yep.
It's kind of the thing of, if your opponent feels that they've undercommitted with the shooting, you can just pop a 3-up invulnerable save and just tank it. And if they were expecting you to teleport, you can sort of watch their draw drop as this Dreadnought is still here and it is still ready to go in and do a massive amount of damage to you next turn. Yeah. What's really good about this one as well is that it's you pop it when you are targeted, so it's not something you have to do at the start of a phase or something like that.
That's right.
And it still lasts for the entire battle round. So it's not something that just lasts for the shooting phase and then they'll beat you in combat.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is like, no, you're having this the entire battle round. It's
amazing. Good. All right, Stuart, you want to hit me with your 2 favorite ones and tell me?
Yeah, I will hit you with my 2 favorites. So the first one I spoke about a little bit earlier, which is the Foretelling of Locusts. So this is essentially Phantasm, or a redeploy for 3 core units. And you can also put those units instead, if you do not want to just redeploy them on the table, you can put them into strategic reserves.
And you don't have to pay command points. How crazy.
You do not have to pay command points for it.
Ridiculous.
This is very powerful. This is extremely powerful. Redeploys have always been very powerful in 40k. But why I think it's so powerful with Grey Knights is Dreadnoughts are core.
Yeah.
So, you could redeploy 3 Dreadnoughts if you're running 3 Dreadnoughts really, really aggressively, and just go for a really big turn 1 alpha. And I think also so much of your army generally with Grey Knights is actually going to be in teleport now, which is now just free on any of your units. Essentially, you can put any core unit has teleport strike. Every character has teleport strike. So you can sort of now just put more of your army in reserve, which is not always what you want to do in every matchup. But the matchups where you can put like 75% of your army in reserve is going to be really powerful when you need it. So It's just another little tool in the box. My other favorite one, which is a bit of I think this one's definitely more situational, but it is very powerful, and that is the True Name Shard.
Oh yes,
so
I do like this
is
too.
Once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, you can select 1 enemy demon unit within 6 inches of the bearer. That unit is not eligible to fight. Is fight last on a demon unit, essentially.
Which is I love how it actually ties into the lore.
Yes, it is very cool.
You say the true name, they're basically useless, which is awesome, right? Awesome.
It is very cool. The reason I like this relic so much is, not relic, but this upgrade.
Gift of the Prescient.
Gift of the Prescient, thank you. The reason I like it so much is it's the only source of fights last in the Grey Knights book.
Hmm.
which is, I think, actually one of the biggest weaknesses of our book is that we don't have a true fight lust. But also, for the time being, demons are still probably our hardest matchup in the game because it feels like Grey Knights won't sort of achieve their true nature in the meta until we've seen the other part of their codex, which is actually going to be the Demons Codex, because demons still have the demonic incursion stratagem, which is when any of their units that isn't a named character is destroyed by a Grey Knights unit, they can get it back for free.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It's rough. Yeah.
This is like on Keepers of Secrets. It's fine on like 10 Demonettes, you don't care, but like when it is a Keeper of Secrets, it really sucks. So
Yeah.
having anything that can swing the demon matchup on its head is really good. And I think this is also really good at the minute as well because of Be'lakor.
Yeah, and he's definitely made demons a lot more common. In fact, I'm running demons this weekend, so...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It works on Mortine and it works on Magnus too as well.
Exactly.
So
you'll be surprised. A lot of things have the demon keyword that, you don't really pay attention to until,
Yeah, 100%. So I think it maybe not be as flashy as some of these other ones, but it is no less as powerful, in my opinion.
For sure. So putting this into perspective, these are all points upgrades for these. Now, just to give a points value for the ones that we described, there are other like decent ones in here. For example, there's a Noble Death, which gives everything OBSEC, and if it already had OBSEC, it's double OBSEC.
Another thing it allows you to do, it also allows you to set to defend in the open, which is actually quite cool.
Yeah, there's also some cool ones like that. Now, putting these into points values, Heroism's Favor, which is the heroic intervention that I mentioned, is 15 points, so pretty damn cheap for that. Stuart's Foretelling of Locust, the redeploy, which I think is kind of an auto-include. I mean, I'm going to probably put that in every list, is only 30 points. 30 points to redeploy units. It's 10 points to redeploy a unit, like one unit, which is really quite valuable. The Servant of the Throne, which is the 3-up imbo that I mentioned, is 20 points. So
really
situational.
Cheap actually for what that is.
Yeah, exactly, because 3-up imbos aren't really a thing anymore, so that's really good. And what was the last one?
The True Name Shard.
True Name Shard, yes. That one is 10 points. So that's super cheap.
Yeah,
that one.
It's very cheap. So another actual sleeper buff of these Gifts of the Prescient and the Visions of the Olgarium is that these are point increases that go on characters. So this actually makes taking to the last a lot easier.
Yep.
Because if you wanted to, make your characters the to the last, which is quite easy to do in Grey Knights, you could just put one of these upgrades on just to increase the cost a little bit to make it your to the last option as well. So it's just a little hidden sleeper buff that maybe you don't see at first glance.
Yeah, no, that's a really good thing that I actually hadn't thought of. So that could be really cheeky.
Yeah, it's nice.
So moving on now, the stratagems. So the stratagems, there's actually 4 pages of stratagems. While some are good, I would have expected more really good ones from 4 pages, if I'm honest.
It's a weird one. I think a lot of our ones are like, a lot of the ones which could have been really good are like 2 CP.
Yep.
And it sort of makes them go, or it's still good. It's just, you really want to like when you use it, you really kind of have to be sure that you're going to need it.
Definitely. There's not that leeway for just throwing CP away anymore. You kind of got to make sure that you get the most out of it. So I reckon even though there's that many stratagems here, we could probably pick our top 3 here. And I'm curious to see if they're actually the same. So Stuart and I, we kind of wanted to do this live and kind of our natural reaction, so we didn't discuss this beforehand. I think for me, my top one that I'll pick is probably Psychic Onslaught, because it's 1 CP now, which is essentially +1 strength and AP to psi weapons in the shooting phase. So
I was using this all the time at 2 CP.
Exactly.
So the fact to the same buff, but for half the price.
Yep, it's a winner. Yeah, I mean, Psy cannons are now 2 damage base, so they don't need the tide anymore. And with the psychic power, they can go to 3 damage. So now you're strength 8, neg 2, 3 damage. You're shooting Reaper guns. You're shooting Dark Reaper guns. It's just crazy, right?
Very good.
What about you, Stuart? You want to hit me with a stratagem that you like?
Yeah. So one of my new favorite ones is Death from the Warp, which is 1 command point. So you use this in your shooting phase when a Grey Knight Psychic unit from your army shoots. And basically, as long as it was set up by the teleport strike ability this turn, it gets +1 to hit with its shooting attack.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
Quite nice. It's just 1 CP +1 to hit, and it combos well with one of the new secondaries that Grey Knight's got, which is Teleport Assault. And the basic thing of that one is basically kill a unit from either with a unit that arrived from either Gate of Infinity, Teleport Strike, or Teleport Shunt strategy. Yeah, it's good.
And the thing is, like, previously you were doing this with Terminators, and you'd spend +1 to hit. But now you can do it with any unit, which is really quite good, because you can throw your Purgs up there. You can throw your what's the other squad, Purifiers up there, and bring them down, and they can actually hit reliably. Because when you hit on 4s, man, I don't know about you, I can't roll 4s. I can't roll 4s stand alive. 5s I'm okay, but 4s,
it feels pretty bad.
You're like, man, why am I getting 75%?
So this really helps out those units. It even works like a Dreadnought, man, because they have Teleport Strike. So just Deep Strike a Dreadnought and hit on 2s. Pretty good.
It's pretty good. The other thing that I do like is we still have a Fight on Death strat, which is Final Justice. So 2 CP Grey Knight's character, before they remove, they get to fight as if they were, doing its fight phase. I mean, that's really heinous, quite heinous on your Dreadnought that's not dying because you don't want to shoot it, and then you're going to go into combat, he's got a 3-up invert, and you do kill him, and he, kills like 4 models back. It's
well, and especially because he's got that new beautiful sweep profile.
Exactly.
So, with the sword. So,
Which, that sweep can get to 3 damage, did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
How crazy is that? 3 damage sweep, okay.
It's pretty revolting.
If I have that if I have that power off, I'm never going to do the normal strike. I'm going to be sweeping every time.
Oh, for days. It's so cool. Yeah, love it.
It's sick. So another one that I really, really like, which I think might be used, Purgation Squads, kind of hit and miss. I think there's a lot of other units that outshine them at the moment, but they do have a really cool stratagem that I want to mention, which is the Sanctified Kill Zone. So in your shooting phase, if you're within 12 inches of an enemy unit, targets an enemy within half range.
15 if you're in the Tide of Convergence.
Exactly.
Because half range,
Beat me to it. So gives you extra range. So 15 inches, add 1 to that attack's wound roll, and that's 2 CP. Pretty powerful, hey?
Yeah. So interesting thing here though is obviously this is going to be really powerful on Psi weapons that they can take. But one thing you can actually just do with Purgation Squads is you can take your Purgation Squad and actually just not give them any Psi weapons and just run them as like a regular strike team. But where this becomes interesting is you could have like a 10-man squad that just has +1 to wound storm bolters that can ignore cover. And that's actually just really good, like for killing Horde and stuff like that. I mean, we've seen storm bolters from like EC Terminators with veterans be really, really proficient. This kind of works in a similar way. It's a little bit more CP intensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, your initial thought might be like, oh, this is just really good on, 5 guys with Psi cannons. And it 100% is, but there's actually a lot more value to this stratagem that maybe doesn't meet the eye at first.
Yeah. My initial thought of it is with the silencers, actually, because they're 24 inches, which goes to 30, which is awesome. And they're essentially storm bolters, but at -1 AP, but then go to 2 damage with the psychic power. So the problem with that, which I actually like your idea with the storm bolters there, is that you're hitting on 4s then.
Yeah.
So that becomes a problem there. You can use your death from the warp stratagem where you come in from deep strike, which might be a little play as well.
Yep.
But yeah, so the versatility there is quite
Yeah.
awesome. Do you
Yeah,
want to hit me
100%.
with a stratagem that you like, Stuart?
Yeah, another stratagem that I really like, and I think we're going to be seeing this stratagem used nearly every turn, is actually psychic channeling,
Yeah.
which is one command point. Use it in the psychic phase when a Grey Knight Psyker casts a psychic power. You until the end of the phase, every time that unit does a psychic test, you roll 3d6 and you get to discard one of the dice.
That is 100% me casting that +1 damage power every turn because I can't
See,
roll
you
7.
reckon it's that? I reckon I'd be doing it on gate every turn.
Yeah, and definitely if you need a vital
Yeah.
gate, 100%. Because Gate of Infinity is Warp Charge 7 now.
Yes, and Grey Knights as well. Another note we haven't touched on is they no longer just get +1 to cast anymore. That used to be their chapter tactic, if you like. Now they get only +1 to deny, and Thousand Suns, the cheeky rascals, have stolen our +1 to cast.
Cultist scheming's at it again, eh?
Oh,
Bloody hell. Yeah, so we get something different now, which is the +1 to deny and the 5-up feel no pain to mortals, which I think is going to become more and more relevant the further down the track we go.
yeah. I actually think it's even just extremely relevant now. There's so many things that can push out a lot of mortal wounds,
That's
and
right.
that blunts all those little things.
Yep.
And it may not seem like much on like the first unit that cops mortal wounds, but over the course of a game, you're probably saving a whole strike team in terms of mortal wounds, which is just good.
It definitely is. It's a little one of those sleeper things, but it's definitely valuable.
Yeah.
Because it's not only in the psychic phase, just mortal wounds is flat.
Yeah, well, it's just like Blessed Bolts from Sisters at the minute is a really popular stratagem, and suddenly they just can't rely potentially on wiping out a squad or a Dread Knight with just mortal wounds alone.
Mm-hmm. So another one I like here is Psychic Locust, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you use it that much because I haven't quite decided if I'm going to include a Brother Captain yet. I'm still on the fence.
Yeah.
Brother Captains are really cool now because they're essentially a lieutenant for the Grey Knights, so they give you reroll ones to wound for core. I'm not sure if it's characters as well, Stuart. Would you happen to know that one or
the reroll bubble for the Brother Captain?
Bro Cap, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just core. Not
just
characters.
core this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So he gives reroll ones in a 6-inch bubble to wound, which is actually kind of good, particularly because we never had one before. Now,
sure.
This stratagem gives you, since we've lost our +1 to cast, this stratagem, it is 2 CP, but it gives him a 6-inch bubble of add 1 to psychic tests.
Yeah. This one's an interesting one. It's 2 CP, so it feels really pricey.
Yes. But for that key turn, though, I think it's...
For that key turn, I actually think this is like... If you're like in that, turn 4 or turn 5 of the game, and you're like, I need to make sure these powers go off to like, win a really tight game, then you 100%, you cashed in those CP.
Yep.
Another place this is really good is if that you have to line up a bunch of smites and then you need them to sort of get that damage in.
Yep.
This is another way to use it because this will give you +1 to casting those smites.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, there are other ways to get bonuses to cast. There is also a litany, which we're going to get to very shortly after we do these stratagems. But that's only for blessings, so each power has their own category now. So there's blessings, maledictions, and I forgot what the third category is.
Witchfire?
Witchfire, that's it. So Witchfire does damage, malediction's a debuff, blessing is a buff. So yeah, that one's limited to buffs or blessings only. So this is kind of the only way that you can get bonuses to cast for multiple units. So yeah, a little bit flexible there. Stuart, you want to hit me with one more stratagem before we move on, or if there's any others that you really want to shout out? You think will be
I think like most of them are kind of like copies of like Space Marine sort of ones.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of similar ones that are in the Space Marine book. So if you know Space Marines, you kind of know a lot of what Grey Knights can do in terms of stratagems. But one I do want to talk about is Haloed in Soulfire, which is similar to the Death from the Warp. You use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Grand Knight's core unit from your army is set up on the battlefield using the teleport strike ability. Until the start of your next turn, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll.
Yeah.
Why I think this is so good is that this is not only neg 1 to hit from shooting, this is neg 1 to hit from combat.
Yeah. And for 1 CP, 2 phases.
For 1 CP, yeah, and it lasts until I think what was it? Until the start of your next turn. So this is your turn and your opponent's turn.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good, hey.
Yeah, like, you know, if you teleport in like a Dread Knight and it's suddenly -1 to hit, you know, they already work as such a good distraction kind of effects, and this just makes it even better.
See, I'm glad you brought this one up because this is exactly what I'm seeing for my Brotherhood Preservers Terminator bricks. Come in from Deep Strike. It doesn't even matter if I'm not like able to charge or do cool shit or go where I want to go. Come in, neg 1 to hit, 5 up, feel no pain, 4 up invo, 3 wounds. I can revive a dude, and it's 1 CP. So it's just like this ultimate unit that is ridiculously hard to shift, and that's what I liked about the last edition as well. Last edition of Grand Knights, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah. My next cool stratagem is Untainted and Unbowed. So this was on this stratagem originally was on what were they called, Paladins. Now it's been moved to Purifiers, and it's -1
No,
damage.
this was always on Purifiers.
Was it?
Oh, the stratagem name at least.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, miscommunication there. Yeah, it was the stratagem's effect is shifted to Purifiers, and that's -1 damage. It's still good because Purifiers are 2 wounds. I was really hoping when I first saw this that Purifiers could get a 5 up feel no pain, because -1 damage, 5 up feel no pain is ridiculous.
Yeah, would be very good. Yeah.
But alas, Purifiers are that awesome Hello Knight keyword that has no interaction with anything. So
yeah, it's garbage. I hate it. Yeah, but yeah, this stratagem is cool. It's 2 CP, so it is pricey. I do see this being really good though if you take like a big 10-man brick of Purifiers. And there is reasons to do that. Although I think at the minute I do prefer MSU Purifiers if you're going to take them. But yeah, like -1 damage, especially when there's a good amount of 2 damage weapons to, you know, kill Marines.
Yeah, it's perfect, eh?
Yeah, just premium. Yep.
And Stuart, you want to tell us about Cybolt before we move on?
Yeah, this is probably the stratagem I have used the most in
this was the stratagem.
8th edition.
Beaten and bruised, wasn't it?
Yeah, this one was. Yeah, it got just pretty stupid proportions, but I actually still think this is a good stratagem. You just won't see it as often.
Yep.
So it is now a 1 CP, 2 CP stratagem, being 2 CP if you're using it on a unit with 6 or more models.
Yep.
And essentially it turns your bolt weapons to AP -1, and anytime you get a hit roll of a 6, it automatically wounds the target.
Yep. It's good. It's good. I probably will abuse the 1 CP one. I
definitely will abuse the 1 CP one.
Yeah, because 1 CP extra AP, why not? And 6 is to hit auto wound.
This is good, like because you can it interacts with Chapter Master to just reroll everything that's not a 6. So it just kind of means that if you need to say do chip damage to a knight or something that's T8 and it has like 4 or 5 wounds left.
Yeah.
You just go, yep, all right, this 5-man units could put 20 shots into it. Anything that's not a 6, I'm just going to reroll it, and you know, suddenly you actually kind of do damage to those units. It's good.
Yeah, it's a good little fishing for 6, especially with the Drago. So, anything else that's crucial that you want to mention before we move on?
Nah, not in the stratagems. There's still some other interesting ones here. I also really like the Need to Know, which is basically the ability to swap out a secondary after secondaries are revealed. It's a bit niche, but where I think this is going to be good is it kind of works as a bit of a bait and switch if your opponent takes Abhor the Witch. So Abhor the Witch is obviously going to be something that's probably going to pick against a lot of Grey Knight players, and if you are listening to this and you're not a Grey Knights player, you may be tempted to pick this secondary. The reason I forewarn you that maybe this could be a mistake is that if I've picked two of my secondaries, which I know are defensive ones, and let's say I'm going to pick the last one as engage in all fronts, which kind of means I have to like throw a unit out or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see you pick up Pour the Witch. I'm going to be very tempted to spend 1 CP to switch engage in all fronts to something that I can play relatively defensively, even if I can't score high on that objective. Because suddenly, I've put myself in a position where I'm going to force you to score low on one of your secondaries, and I'm going to still score a decent amount.
Yep.
And now I'm forcing you to... You need to come and kill my psychers, so you need to push at me. And that's the trap, because now I get into close combat with you.
Exactly.
And trust me, you do not want to be in close combat too much with Grey Knights, because they will punish you. So I think there's a interesting interplay with this stratagem. I don't think it's going to be used lots.
Yeah.
But it's just something to keep in mind.
No, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I wanted to mention. It's the first time this type of stratagem has ever been made.
Yes.
in this edition.
Yeah. And it's good to know that Thousand Suns got a similar stratagem as well.
Oh, yeah, well, I didn't even know that. I haven't listened to the Thousand Suns episode that we did. But yeah, so it's really niche. It's really flexible, and as Stuart said, you realize if you done messed up, or if your opponent's gone very aggressive and you've gone kind of too defensive, and you're like, oh, I can just change this, and they have to play a certain way. Anytime you force your opponent to play a certain way, it's a huge advantage to you.
Yeah, especially playing outside of their game plan.
Exactly. So it's definitely really cool too. It can be game winning, but it is very niche as well.
Yeah.
So let's go through the. I think the next thing we'll go through is the psychic powers, and we'll run through. So we'll go through all these. Actually, any ones that we can miss. I'm just having a quick browse.
Purge Soul doesn't exist. Never heard of it. Cross it off.
Okay, all right. We'll skip Purge Soul. If you need to find out, I'm sure there's a Wikipedia or even Battle.
If you need to look it up, you shouldn't be worried.
Okay. So Dominus Discipline. So this is the one that special psychers know. It can
only characters essentially.
Only characters, exactly.
Yeah.
It can be cast only once, I believe. This one, right?
This is the one that's only once.
That's right. So this is your Gate of Infinity. Same as before, except it's War Charge 7.
And it's also 18-inch range now. It used to be 12.
Yeah, which is actually really good, because there's so many times where I'm like, man, 5-inch moves sucks right now.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get gate off and you're like, I need to advance, and that ruins everything.
Yeah, and I mean, to note as well, we do have a CP stratagem to increase this range by 6 inches as well. So you could just do a 24-inch range gate if you really need to as well.
Exactly. And that's this next psychic power, Empiric Amplification. So this is select an invisible enemy unit within 12 of the Psyker, and anytime an attack with Nemesis or Psi Weapon is allocated, add 1 to the damage to that characteristic of that attack. So +1 damage, 12-inch range, Warp Charge 7.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think it's gonna, because your characters are so slow, unless it's kind of like a Dread Knight that teleports around. You're gonna be spending 1 CP on this to make it 18-inch range.
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of the combo there that you do with that one.
Yeah, definitely. But like, this is very powerful. Like,
yeah, it's incredible.
Choose whichever unit you pass it on, and that unit's just gonna die.
It's dead.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about Sanctuary, Stuart?
Yeah. This is a blessing. Warp Judge value 6. Select a Grey Knights unit within 18 inches. Again, so increased range. And basically that unit gets a 4+ invulnerable save. It does not anymore increase your invulnerable save by 1 if you already have one. But I think it's fine. Giving a 4+ invulnerable save is just really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good because a lot of units could only get like a 5-up from it.
Yeah.
And now, and with boarding staves, you could get a 4-up only in combat. So it's kind of, it's just balance the scores a little bit. You can just go, flat 4-up, done.
Yeah.
kind of cool. I like that they've gone away from 3-up invos personally, because I felt 3-up invos were so...
They were a bit weird.
Yeah.
When they were like on Storm Shields and like every Space Marine and his dog could get a 3+ invulnerable save,
Yeah.
it felt pretty bad.
It was, yeah.
Especially when you put like, we've all had that one game where your opponent has rolled an unnatural amount of 3-ups.
Exactly.
And you just sit there looking at them going,
why am I here,
like,
bro?
what do I do?
Why am I here?
I'm looking at you, every single Deathwatch player that has ever existed. I'm looking at all of you.
Deneth, Martino, what are you doing?
Yeah. Terrible.
So yeah. So Sanctuary, I'm kind of happy it's 4-up.
Yeah.
So Vortex, this one's kind of cool now. Definitely balances.
This is
the scales.
this is my runner-up for most improved power, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like that it's changed a bit. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So this is Warp Charge value 7. Used to be 8. And it's the closest enemy unit within 12 inches. The first thing that happens is that every enemy unit within 3 inches of the targeted unit takes a mortal wound.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, nice, cheap mortal wounds. But the real kicker is that the unit that is selected by it takes 2d3 mortal wounds.
Which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's chunky.
Isn't that like Magnus Super Smite now?
I think it's just 3d3 if you mega cast it.
That's right. Yeah.
But this is going a little while back, and probably the future as well, is that I'm also a Tyranids player, and I really loved using zone throats. And
nice.
they are able to get 2d3 mortal wound smites by having a certain number in the unit. And for a while there, I was this is back in 8th edition. I was running the Eric style Gaunt carpet, but I added my own flavor by running units of zone threats behind the walls of Gaunts. And yeah, it was very satisfying, just people crashing into your wall of Gaunts and then just getting smited away from combat. And yeah, I think this is very similar to that. It's just powerful.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, Executioner from Craft Worlds is crazy.
Yeah, I just think Executioner is just going to become 2d3 mortal wounds, and if you cast it on a big enough cast, it'll be like 3d3.
Yeah, that'd be sick. So we've also got Warp Shaping, which is Warp Charge 4, change the Tide. Interestingly now, Tides can't be changed to what they were previously, so you can only have any one active Tide active once.
Yeah.
And once you change it, you can't go back, which I was hoping they'd do a stratagem where you can go back or something, because that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I was hoping for a stratagem that like one unit could switch a Tide. So if you say,
or like a warlord trait or something, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that'd be really cool if we get something like that.
Yeah.
We didn't, but it is what it is. Tides are still really powerful, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, you could do house rules if you want, just pretend it's the thing, and that would have been like a good codex.
Yeah, you'd let me do that at the TNB GT, wouldn't you?
Oh, why not? As long as you ask me and only me. Don't ask any of the other guys.
Well, it'll be our little secret. Just don't tell the others to listen to this podcast.
Last one, which is pretty cool in this tree, is Ghostly Bonds, and it's Warp Charge 5, which is amazing for a power like this. Half that unit's move characteristic. Pretty damn good, because most of these...
this is pretty powerful. I think it's with Drukhari being a lot around, I don't think this is as good against Drukhari.
I agree.
Simply because they can advance the charge from turn 2. But this is still really good, because imagine like halving the movement on like a Custodes jet bikes unit.
Yeah. That's
and it loses 7 inches of movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think units that can't advance and charge really are going to hate psychic power.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really cheap. It's Warp Charge 5, so yeah.
Yeah, it's Warp Charge 5. And 18-inch range is actually good, especially when you could buff it to 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only issue is that visible. Sometimes visibility is an issue with these things, but look.
Oh, one thing that I hadn't thought of where it's good, but now that I have, it's actually good.
Hit me. What is it?
Is that it doesn't. You can specify it. You can be any enemy unit, so you could like charge it on someone's like, war boss on Squigasaur,
mm-hmm.
and then suddenly that goes to like, I I don't know what its base move is. I think it's like 10 inches, but then it goes to 5 inches. And even with advance and charge on that thing, if you've carded it well enough, it probably isn't getting to you next turn.
Yeah, especially if you buff the range of this thing.
Yeah, that's really good.
It is good. It is.
I
really
like
good.
that.
I mean, I'm going to take it in my army because yeah, things like that.
Yeah,
Halving movement.
The times where
awesome.
it's good, it's really good.
Yeah. So the Sanctic Discipline, this is the one where your squads can cast this multiple times. This is the one that is normally allotted to each unit specifically, and only some units can pick and choose these ones. I think Paladins is the only unit that can do this. Is that correct, Stuart?
Yeah, Paladin. Oh, Librarians as well, because they can choose from either the Sanctic or Dominus Discipline.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah.
So Paladins can do this. So Astral Aim. So this has changed. Gone are the days of shooting through walls. I really missed it.
Can we all pour one out for Astral Aim?
Oh, Eric's having one last hurrah with it this weekend. He's like, I need to get it out of my system.
Look, I agree with him. I was shattered when I physically shattered. I nearly broke down. I was just inconsolable.
I was in a dark place. I was in lockdown, and then they told me.
That's it. And then it's just that was actually the same day that the latest lockdown got announced. And then I came home that night. I'm like, you know what? It'll get better. At least I'll get Grey Knight leagues tonight. And then they hit me with this, and I'm like, man, you can't kick a man while he's down. This is just rude.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. So Astral Aim's Warp Charge 6. Ignore benefits of cover when they shoot, essentially, and they get to reroll one hit roll. Just one. Yeah,
just one. Look, Purgation squads know this. It's fine, you know.
Yeah,
you get a hit roll. I feel like casting on a 6 kind of sucks for what it is. I feel like it should just be a 5.
I mean, it was a 5 before when you could shoot out of line of sight.
Yeah, I know. So
that's funny.
You know.
Yeah.
It's probably a fine psychic power, but when you look at what it was to what it's become,
it was.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
It was like a hallmark of GK. Everybody knew GK as Astral Aim. That was it.
Yeah, 100%. And look, to be honest, though, having looked at the new book, I still think if we had the old style Astral Aim, I'm actually starting to think we would be leaning on borderline Drukhari and Admech territory. Maybe not quite, but would be, it'd be starting to get a bit oppressive. So yeah, I think it's fine.
I will say, however, GW, why are you removing all out of line of sight shooting, and then you go and give one of the best versions I've ever seen to the Orcs?
Because apparently Orcs can't shoot good. I don't know.
Have you seen their truck that shoots out of line of sight? It's 90 points.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's 2d6, strength 5, AP2, 2 damage. What?
Yeah.
And it's -1 damage on chassis? What? Okay. Remove Astral Aim, but give Orcs who can't shoot, give them that.
You think that's bad? Wait till we see the new and improved Shadow Weavers.
Oh, God.
What is that?
What are they going to be, 12 damage?
Yeah, probably.
Something ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Before we get sidetracked, we got a little bit left, and then everyone's GK lesson is over.
That's true. Yeah.
Purge Soul is the next one. Warp Charge 6. Yeah.
Don't even worry about Purge Soul. This is never going to be cast ever.
Okay.
If you cast your psychic power in a game, in a competitive tournament game, if you film it and send it to me, I'll give you a reward of some kind. And if you kill something with it, an even bigger reward. Doubling down on it. There you go.
I'm going to leave that one blank, and people are now going to be really interested to see what it is. All right. Hammerhand. Hammerhand. Warp Charge 5. Reroll. Wound roll. Not failed wounds. Wound roll.
Yeah.
So you want to
we spoke about this before.
Yeah.
This is just good.
Hands down. Busted. Probably, I'm going to say, second best power besides Empiric Amplification, because I just like to shoot.
Yeah. Fair enough, yeah. No, I definitely think it's the most improved psychic power.
Yeah, most improved for sure. And we love our most improved.
Yeah, we do.
You want to read through the last interesting ones for us there, Stuart?
Yeah. I do want to talk about Purifying Flame, because Purifiers and Castellan Crow is my favourite part of Grey Knights, if I'm being honest.
Actually, I will say this one for me is most improved.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So this is a Witchfire with a warp charge value of 5, and if manifested, the closest enemy unit within 9 inches, and visible to the Psyker, suffers 3 mortal wounds.
Flat 3.
If the result of the Psychic test is 11 or more, the unit suffers D3 plus 3 mortal wounds.
Mm-hmm. And the kicker here, get to it, Stuart. I know what you're about to say.
Oh.
I was getting excited. You say it.
I know. I'm going to say it. Purifiers and Crow, because he is a purifier, get a +1 to cast this psychic power. So they will be getting that D3 plus 3 mortal wounds on a 10 or higher on the roll of the dice.
Which is not hard to do.
Not hard to do, and especially if you're casting multiple. And the other thing about this, which is really good, is this is a discipline psychic power. So you can cast this multiple times with the increasing warp charge. And why this is interesting is it gives you essentially 2 smite psychic powers that you can spam, and this one will increase it on its own but won't affect smite. So you can still cast smite on a 5, this on a 5. Then you can cast smite on a 6, and then this on a 6. So you can layer this in such a way that you could probably throw out somewhere between like 20 and 30 mortal wounds in a psychic phase if you rolled hot. And yeah, that's why I still think purifiers are a good pick in this book.
Yeah, for sure. This is getting like not to the same level as the flat 2 mortal wounds that the GK could do before, where their smite wasn't going up, but it's similar to that level. Like it's giving you back that really strong, where you feel good about it, psychic damage, you know? Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And last one, we mentioned it before, Ethereal Castigation, which is move, shoot, move, warp charge. Warp charge 6 now, which is awesome, and multiple people can cast it. So you are now 7th edition Eldar.
Yes, so good.
All right. So we're almost done, guys. We're almost done. There's a lot in this book. We even didn't even talk about it all. We only talked about our favorite things. We're going to go through the litanies next, and then finally just the brief warlord traits and the secondaries. After which, I'm going to get Stuart's final opinions and ideas that he's thinking of.
You'll want to stick around for that one, I'm sure.
Yes, and that's what we're here for. All right. So litanies. For me, I mean, chappies only know 1 litany now, which is a downgrade from the 2 they knew before. They can still only roll for 1.
Unless I'm missing something, but I'm fairly sure, having scoured this book quite a bit, that there is no way to get for a chaplain to know any additional ones as well.
That's correct.
Which
it sucks.
Is a bit annoying, especially when they used to know to.
Yeah.
I would have liked some kind of relic or something that you could give to a chaplain only and allow them to know to and cast to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. It is what it is.
Look, I think the one that you're going to see in most of your list is the Words of Power, which is, we've mentioned it before, in combat with a nemesis weapon, unmodified wound rolls over 6 cause an additional wound and also an additional 1 mortal wound in the Tide of Convergence. So,
this is the one that I think if you're going to take a chaplain, this is the litany you'll take.
Yeah, I think
and you're taking a chaplain for this litany.
Exactly. I think it's auto-include. Well, not all auto-include, but it is very powerful. Yeah. So, what about you, Stuart? What's one that stands out to you there?
The other ones, like most of them, to be honest, I don't think are that impressive.
No.
There is one I will. There's one which essentially gives you a +1 to cast for blessing psychic powers. And that is an aura. So if you want to take one to get some extra reliability on casting your powers, it's not a bad way to do it. The other one I will mention, though, because I think this, depending on how the meta develops, this could see some play. And it definitely might see some play in team events now, now that Grand Master and Thousand Suns have come out.
Yep.
It's a litany that you select a unit within 6 inches, and that unit cannot be affected by psychic powers.
Yep. And it removes any that they're currently affected.
Yeah, and it removes any that they have been affected by.
Very niche, but in teams, as you said, can be super strong.
Like, you put up a block of, 10 Terminators, which in teams you might be more incentivized to take, and you put this on them, and you're standing in front of 1,000 Suns army, and they, like, how do they? I know they've got some decent shooting.
Yeah.
But how are they going to kill that unit?
Exactly. It's
Because they can't smite it.
Yeah. It's tough, eh? It's really niche. It's really good in the situation
Niche,
you need
but
it.
when you use it correctly, this thing can end an army by itself.
Yeah, for sure. So I think they're kind of like you got bonus range. You've got ignore ballistic skill modifiers like before. You got Storm of Fire, which is essentially 6 to wound as 1 additional AP. Nothing really stands out. The main one is Words of Power, and possibly the Invocation of Focus, but that's kind of niche too.
Yeah.
Moving on to Warlord traits then. So Stuart, what's your favourite Warlord trait?
My favourite one, and I definitely don't think this is the best one, but again, this one I think is again a sleeper, just really good one, is Demon Slayer, which is each time this warlord fights, if it is made a charge move this turn, then that unit gets +1 to its attack characteristic, and if it makes a melee attack against a demon, you ignore invulnerable saving throws,
which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, like Bellacore, eat your heart out, mate. Because, I'm going to put this on my Grand Master Dreadnought. He's going to charge you. He's going to rock 7 attacks. So that means that when I do my sweep profile, I'm going to have 14 attacks. And I'm going to cast a +1 damage psychic power at you, and I'm going to have 14 3 damage attacks. And you're not going to get a save.
Mm-hmm.
So... yeah, like this, I think is really good in a similar vein to the fact that demons are still probably our hardest match, and putting this on a Grand Master Dreadnought means that he's both effective at just wiping out their characters and their hordes alike.
Yeah.
So, and even if you're not playing demons, you still can get +1 attack when you charge, which is just good with your sweep profile.
Yeah.
Again, it's niche, but at least in Australia, where we have some of the best Chaos players in the world, I think I would be taking this to meta for those players.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
What about you? What's your favourite?
My favourite here is actually it's not that surprising, but it's actually the Unyielding Anvil, which is basically all core and character within 6 of the Warlord get objective secured. I like it because I was getting sick of not having any very good OBSEC last edition of the Grey Knights.
No, 100% agree.
So, and if a model already has OBSEC, it counts as 1 additional model. So that really helps when you're lacking the model count compared to some armies.
Yes, it's very good.
Another one that we've also seen a fair bit of is First to the Fray. You would have seen this on battle reports. It's been kind of a go-to for a lot of people. It's +1 advance and charge rolls for your Warlord. And if the Warlord has made a charge move this turn, and it's successful, friendly Grey Knights cores that also declare a charge on that same unit within engagement range of your Warlord, add 1 to charge rolls. So if they make a charge, everybody else gets +1 charge.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good, solid. Anything else there? I think the others are kind of a little bit lackluster. Hammer of Righteousness.
Yeah, there's some junk you can do with Psychic Epitome to get like a really mortal wound heavy Libby. I won't go into explaining it, but if you're going to make a Libby that wants to blast everything away in the psychic phase, you want to take Psychic Epitome.
Yeah, there's definitely a good play around that one there. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with Gate of Vortex, sorry, which I was really hoping it would.
No, I'm pretty sure it does. So Witchfire.
It works on the first model, but not the surrounding units.
Oh no, okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Because I first saw it, and then I'm like, it doesn't say it at the start, and then right at the end it says specifically in Vortex, it says Psychic.
Yeah, it says it in Vortex. Yeah. They were one step ahead of you on this one.
Oh no, you know how you read like the first 3/4 of the rule, and you're like, I don't see it, it must work, and then
well that's what I do. Read the first 3/4 of a rule. Yeah. And play it that way, and then just say what you want.
When you get found out later,
Oh, it was just an accident, man. Happens to the best of us. Nah, seriously, don't play that way, but, you know.
So now, what people are probably wanting to know is the secondaries.
Now, if I had to say what is the biggest improvement to Grey Knights out of this book, and there's been a lot, but the thing I think that's going to make us in my opinion, overall a B+ tier Codex and possibly above, is this page in this book.
I agree. There's one in particular. I'm hoping we're thinking the same one, but I don't actually know yet.
Oh, we're probably thinking the same one.
Okay, you say it first, just so I don't say the wrong one.
I'm going to say it is the Warpcraft one.
Okay,
which
thank
is
God.
The Purifying Ritual.
Yeah, 100%. Tell us. Break it down for us.
So this is, thank God, finally a good psychic secondary that is not Abhor the Witch.
Oh, no.
So basically, you score a number of victory points at the end of the battle round, as shown in a table below. And you get basically what you have to do is go to an objective and you have to cast a Purifying Ritual, which is a psychic action, and will charge 5. So in your psychic phase, this action can be performed by any number of Grand Knights units in your army. If a Grand Knight's psychic unit is within 3 inches of an objective marker, it can attempt to purify it by performing the psychic action. And if you do this on one objective, you get 1 point. Nothing special. You do it on 2, you get 2 points. Yeah, not bad. If you do it on 3, you get 4. And then if you do it on 4+, you get 6.
Yep.
Now, this secondary is very good.
Yes.
It's not the best in every single mission. Like, if you're on a 4-objective mission, it's probably not so good. But the ability to... Like, Grey Knights are going to get around the table anyway. They're going to be teleporting in. They've got some fast-moving units. And you can also advance and do psychic actions.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are not ordinary actions.
The only one you can do, which is awesome. Advancing and doing an action, perfect. Yeah.
Now, and it allows you to score points. Now, there's also an added layer to this as well. Because psychic actions still allow you to shoot and fight. And charge and all that kind of stuff. Now, Grey Knights are a very elite army. So, while we can still do, secondaries like not Abhor the Witch, we can't do that one. Like banners, Retrieve Octarius data. These are secondaries that you have to sacrifice one of your units. Potentially just have to throw a strike team into your opponent's deployment zone to just do it.
Yep.
But then they're going to die and they haven't actually earned their value in terms of points cost. This is something that you can just do, and then I can move on to this objective. Even if you're controlling it, I can cast this psychic action, get my points for it, shoot you in the face, then charge you. That's very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, armies pay 2 CP to be able to do that. Like, still shoot and do an action. This is like...
Yes.
Cast.
And generally, it's just shoot and do that. Exactly. I can still shoot, I can charge, I can do a backflip, I can do whatever I want. It's so good.
It's awesome.
You're gonna... If you're an army that doesn't have the ability to deny, or... you're just gonna... This is almost an auto pick against those armies.
Yeah.
Another one I do want to talk about, because I actually think this whole page has good secondaries.
Okay.
Which is the Teleport Assault. And I did briefly mention this one before. And it's, you score victory points at the end of the battle round if one or more enemy unit was destroyed by a Grand Master model from your army that was set up on the battlefield using the Teleport Strike ability, or the Teleport Shun stratagem, or Gate of Infinity. This is good because you're not going to do this in every matchup. I should mention this is also in the No Mercy, No Respite category. So this is the same one as, say, kill more units than your opponent, whatever that one's called. And While We Stand, or To the Last, as it's now called. Against armies that have MSU, this is just almost an easy 12 to 15 victory points. Because you can just gate one of your Dread Knights around, or you could teleport in a strike team, and just, shoot at something, or you could charge it, or you could use the psychic power and just plink off and kill something,
Yeah.
3 victory points.
Yeah, it's really good. I do, however, me personally, I don't think I would take that one because it requires too many things for me to do. I need to cast a psychic power. I then need to kill the unit that I was going to kill with that unit that teleported. And I can just tell that something's going to go wrong somewhere in there for
See,
me.
I don't think it's so that bad because what you can do is you could just say teleport a strike team in, into say, even like a bigger unit sometimes, which at least for the way I'm going to be playing Grey Knights, I'm going to have plenty of units in teleport strike. But then your Dread Knight can just shoot at something and leave it on one guy left pretty easily, right? You can sort of
and then you finish it off.
Control your shooting, and then all you need to do is get that strike team to bolter the rest, into it and just get your 3 victory points.
Yeah.
Again, this is not something you're going to pick every game. But in the games where your opponent has lots of MSU and you're confident you can take them out, this is, I think, good.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. The Purge the Enemy one is killing demons specifically, so it's good in that demon matchup. Basically, if you kill a demon Primarch, it's 5 points. Any demon monster, 3 points. Vehicle, 3 points. Any demon unit, 1 point.
Yeah.
So
if you're playing demons, this is good.
Yeah, simple as that. If they're mono demons, you take this. It's just good because now I found with GK you'd always pick 2 and you'd really struggle with the 3rd unless the mission was good. And now you actually have 3 that you can basically always pick.
Yeah, well, see, this is where I think the real strength of Grey Knights is in its secondary game because looking at Grey Knights now, I'm confident in taking any of these 3 secondaries on this page from game to game, depending. I am confident that I can play To the Last. I'm confident that I can play Banners. I can do Retrieve Octarius Data.
Yeah.
I can do Engagement up fronts. I can do the secondary options for Grey Knights have opened up completely with this one page.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I think that's where there's a lot of strength in Grey Knights, is that I think it's going to be hard to be in a game where you do not have a decent 3 or 2 good picks and 1 decent pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And look, I could be wrong in the future, but I think for the most part, this is where the real sort of gold lining is in this codex.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And I do like the flexibility in everything as well, because you can even change your secondary, which is cool.
Yep, so, that's true.
So, moving on to our little final segment here. I'm just going to ask Stu for a nice little small example taste of a list that he's thinking of. Doesn't have to be super elaborate, just some ideas that these are coming together from these books and all these rules that we've gone through today. So for example, I'll just quickly go first and give mine. I personally like Preservers with 10-man Terminator bricks. I think maybe 1 squad is probably the limit you're going to run because they are super expensive now. I'll probably run that. Maybe 1 Grand Master. Drago is probably a definite auto take because he just gives that awesome rerolls. Which lasts essentially shooting and fight phase, so that's awesome. I'm also thinking of 2 Interceptor squads. I really like the Interceptor squads. I think they're fantastic. And 2 Purge squads and a bunch of Rhinos, and that's pretty much my list, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's with the tides and everything too, because the tide that so we didn't really talk about it too much, but there was a tide that makes your rolls 1 and 2 count as a 3. So first time if you go first, it's actually a bit of extra movement because everybody moves 8 then.
Yep.
And most of the times when you go first, and you're like, oh yeah, great, I'm going first. Everything's out of line of sight, you can't do anything. Cool, I'll just be in movement tide, I'll just gain board control. You can actually do that now.
Yeah, the thing about that tide as well, which we didn't really discuss it earlier, but there are some games I played only 1 game with this new book, but I played against Sisters of Battle, where I found that I did not need the additional damage from Tide of Conversions. It was pretty MSU. My units were just going to kill his units on the fact that my units are just kind of better than his units, right? So I stayed in Tide of Celerity the entire game to get reliability on charges and movement.
Yeah, interesting.
And it was relevant.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was really relevant. So I think this is a tide that there are going to be games where you just stay in this one.
Yeah. It's really good because, see, in my opinion, I think the tile that I'm going to stand most is the save, the cover save.
The Shadows.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I think it's a better late game one than it is early game.
Yeah,
I have the
interesting.
polar
Okay.
opposite sort of thing
Yeah, right.
because I feel like most games now, especially with the redeploy, I'm going to be able to hide most of my army because I'm going to either redeploy stuff that's was exposed.
Yep.
Most of it's going to be in deep strike, and you generally have enough line of sight blocking to hide infantry and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and maybe like one sort of monster or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like turn one, Tide of Shadows isn't going to provide much for you unless your opponent has like really good indirect shooting that you want the like 3 of the new orc buggy dudes.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
then it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a good point because I would
Yeah.
probably like do the tide for moving first to get the mid board and then swap to the durability tide essentially, and I'd probably stay in that the whole game. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm thinking. Really
Yeah, no,
interesting to
I
hear
think it's a
different
good late
perspective.
game sort of play when you're like on objectives and you just don't want to be shot off them.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be running from deep strike more, hey. So I'm going to
Yeah.
guess, are you thinking MSU build or are you going to go the Dreadnought?
I'm definitely thinking an MSU build.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, nice.
Yeah.
You want to give us a little preview, little taste?
Yeah. So what I'm sort of currently playing around with at the minute is the first thing I looked at, even though the combat's really good, you definitely still need to take shooting options. I
Yep.
don't think Grey Knights work without shooting options.
Mhm.
And the 2 options you have here, either you're going to take purgation squads or you're going to take dreadnoughts.
Yep.
At the minute, I'm opting towards dreadnoughts because I haven't used them in a while, and yeah, I think they're very cheap for what they do. So I'm looking at the minute at a Prescient Brethren Patrol. I'm going to take the Grand Master Dreadnought with all the cool stuff, so the teleport and the 3+ invulnerable save.
Yeah, nice.
And I'm going to have 2 strike teams in that squad, in that patrol, and then 2 dreadnoughts. I also have a Tech Marine in this one, which I've given the warlord trait to give me command points, and he's also got the relic, which means he auto heals 3 instead of D3.
Nice.
And then I have a Rapier's Battalion, which has Drago, a chaplain with the Words of Power, 3 units of 5 strikes, and 2 units of 7 interceptors and a unit of 5 interceptors.
Yeah, nice. Interceptors, yes, I love that they're everybody's favorite now.
Yeah, they're good. I've been building them frantically this past week. I have like 7 on my desk right now in front of me.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. I think the MSU build for Grey Knights is just it's just really powerful. Each unit works so well independently because it can, like put it this way, every unit in your army can kill a Catan by itself. That's
crazy.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I just think that having these units that can operate independently and stretch your opponent thin, sort of thing, I quite like. And the ability to put so much of it in teleport and sort of put it where you need it, it's just really good.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm looking forward to all the things that people create and the different sort of combos that people can think of. It should be super interesting, hey?
Yeah, it definitely will be.
Yeah. So I think with that, we've covered it pretty extensively. Not all little nooks and crannies. We've just covered kind of the things that we think are most important and most relevant. Even Stuart's been kind enough to give us a nice little preview of what he's been playtesting with. So thank you for that, Stuart.
No worries at all. I'm always happy to share my my secret sauce. I don't actually have secret sauce. I share it openly. I'm terrible.
Hey man, that's what it is. It's the community. You find a little niche thing, you're like, everybody, look what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just like to be noticed.
All right. Well, with that, I'd like to say thank you for coming on, Stuart. Thanks for sharing your opinions.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. And with that, I think we shall wrap up the episode. So I'll say thank you to our listeners for listening. If you like what you heard, give us a like on Facebook and subscribe to us on iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube now for accessibility. We might be thinking about doing some videos on YouTube in the near future. So give us any feedback that you like on any of our content, and we'll be happy to give you guys a chat and incorporate your feedback as well. Thanks again, Stuart, and with that, we'll say good night and happy hunting, GK.
Good night, everyone.